Human, kneel. You have been chosen as my prize.
There's a kid freezing on this mountain.
The Valdorai did not ask. They took. That was the entire philosophy of their civilization, distilled into 4 words. They had taken 17 worlds in 2 centuries. They took resources, territories, labor, and, for their ruling class, they took mates. The strongest specimens from conquered species. Trophies dressed in silk, kept in towers, displayed at court as proof of dominance. When the Valdorai fleet arrived at Earth's orbit, High Huntress Sera'vyn commanded the lead ship. She was the most decorated warrior in Valdorai history. 7 feet tall, scaled in deep violet, with 4 arms and eyes that could track a target moving at 200 meters per second. She had never lost a hunt. She had never been told no. The concept had been surgically removed from her world by centuries of absolute power. Her mission was simple: select 1 human specimen for the royal collection. A demonstration. A message to Earth before the formal conquest began. Her scanners found him in 40 seconds. Marcus Webb, 31 years old, search and rescue technician, currently on day 3 of a solo operation in the Cascade Mountains, carrying a 60-pound pack through a blizzard, looking for a missing hiker. The scanner flagged his physical output. Core temperature regulated despite -15 wind chill. Heart rate elevated but steady. Pain signals present in both knees. Ignored, suppressed, overridden by something the scanner categorized as non-chemical motivational drive. Sera'vyn watched him on the tactical screen for a long moment. She had hunted creatures across 17 worlds. She had never seen anything push through that much pain without stopping. She smiled, the way a predator smiles when it finally finds worthy prey. "That one," she said. "Bring him to me." They materialized around him in a clearing just below the tree line. 6 Valdorai hunters, fully armored, weapons drawn, not because they expected resistance, but because protocol demanded it. The blizzard was still howling. The temperature had dropped another 3 degrees. Marcus was kneeling in the snow, reading a track, when the transporter light faded and he found himself surrounded. He stood up slowly. He looked at them. All 6, the weapons, the ships visible through the trees as the storm broke briefly overhead. He did the math in about 2 seconds. Then he said, "I'm in the middle of something. Can this wait?" Sera'vyn descended last. She stepped from the transport pad, and the snow hissed where her boots landed, the heat of her suit evaporating it instantly. She walked a full circle around Marcus, examining him the way a buyer examines a purchase. Up close, her scanners updated. Micro tears in both quadriceps, a hairline stress fracture in his left heel that was at least 4 days old, dehydration, and a core body temperature that should have forced him off the mountain 12 hours ago. He was still standing, still steady, still looking at her with an expression she could not classify. "You have been selected," she said through the translator. "You will accompany us. You will be housed in the royal court as a companion to the High Huntress. This is an honor given to fewer than 1 in a million specimens across all conquered worlds." Marcus blinked once. "No," he said. The word landed in the clearing like a stone dropped into still water. The 6 hunters went rigid. Their hands moved to their weapons. Sera'vyn's translator ran the word 3 times, checking for error. No error. "You do not have the option to refuse," she said, and her voice dropped into the register she used before she ended things. Marcus looked past her, back toward the mountain. Somewhere up there, a 14-year-old girl had been missing for 61 hours in -15 temperatures. The window was closing. He had been 40 minutes from her last known position when these people appeared. He looked back at Sera'vyn. "There's a kid up there," he said, "and I'm going to find her. Whatever you need to do after that, we can talk." Sera'vyn raised her hand. The hunters did not fire. She stopped them with 2 fingers. Something was happening that she needed to observe. Her scanners were returning data she had no category for. The human knew he was outmatched. The human knew he could not win. And the human was not surrendering, not fleeing, not bargaining. He had simply turned around and started walking up the mountain. She followed him. She told herself it was tactical observation. She told herself she was assessing his capabilities before transport. She told herself many things in the next 37 minutes as she watched Marcus Webb move through a blizzard with a broken heel and torn muscles, reading sign in the snow with bare hands because he'd lost one glove 2 hours ago, talking quietly into a radio, recalculating his route every time the wind shifted. At minute 38, he stopped. He knelt in the snow and started digging with his hands. Sera'vyn's sensors found the girl 4 seconds later, buried under a collapsed snow shelf, unconscious, core temperature critically low. Still alive. Barely. Marcus dug for 6 minutes without stopping. When he pulled her out, he immediately stripped off his outer layer and wrapped it around her, then started the rewarming protocol she heard him recite from memory. The words of someone who had trained for exactly this moment, for exactly this kind of loss, and had refused to accept it anyway. The girl opened her eyes. Marcus said, "Hey, I've got you. You're okay." Sera'vyn stood in the snow and felt something shift inside her chest that her species did not have a word for. She had hunted warriors. She had collected champions. She had taken the strongest fighters from 17 worlds and put them in towers and called them trophies. Not one of them had ever done this. Not one of them had ever walked in a certain death. Not for glory, not for conquest, not for survival, but for a child they had never met on a mountain that was trying to kill them with a broken body and an unbroken will. She lowered her weapon. She lowered it all the way. "Human," she said. Marcus looked up, still holding the girl. "What is your word?" Sera'vyn asked slowly. "For what you just did?" Marcus thought about it for a moment. "Tuesday," he said. "The Valdorai fleet left Earth's orbit at 0300 hours the following morning. No conquest, no collection, no formal declaration, no treaty, no explanation transmitted to any Earth government or military channel. They simply left, 7 ships folding back in a faster-than-light transit as quietly as they had arrived." Sera'vyn filed her report from the command deck. It was the shortest report in Valdorai military history. It read, in full, "Earth is not ready to be conquered. Recommend indefinite postponement. Reason, they have not yet discovered their own limits. We should not be present when they do." She flagged it classified, not because she was ashamed, because she knew her commanders would not understand. You had to stand in the snow. You had to watch it happen. You had to feel that shift in your chest and understand that what you were looking at was not a specimen, not a trophy, not a curiosity. It was a warning wearing a human face. Marcus Webb filed his incident report the next afternoon, after the girl, Emma, 14, from Bellingham, had been airlifted to the hospital and her parents had arrived, and he had watched the reunion from across the parking lot, because that was where he always stood. At the edge, quietly. His supervisor asked if he was okay. The alien encounter would need to be documented. Marcus filled out the form. Under incident summary, he wrote, "Search and rescue completed. Subject recovered. External interference resolved." Under additional notes, he wrote nothing. He drove home, made coffee, and sat at his kitchen table while the world outside slowly processed the fact that humanity had just been visited and found. Not conquerable, not collectible, not containable. Just human. We do not fight because we're the strongest. We fight because we cannot stop. And that is the one thing in the universe that cannot be conquered.